Good evening. It is Tuesday night, and I am back to unbox or flip through the Raziel Tarot. I'm going to try something new tonight. One reason I don't put up videos as often as I'd like to is that I do go back and edit quite a bit, and I'm going to try not to do that. I'm going to try just to run through it and have the video be what it is. So this is the Raziel Tarot. In the Raziel Tarot, there's something called midrash, and it is, if you know, you know. If you don't, it is, the only way I know how to describe it is Jewish folklore. So there is the 5 books of the law, and then the exposition of those books and the rules that came after the Second Temple were written by various rabbis and schools of thought in Judaism that still govern or guide, so to speak, the way different Jewish sects live and how they're interpreted. And then within that, there is a strand of stories based in the history. Some are very sound in fact, maybe with the miracle stories or angels stories of actions of God that aren't necessarily in the first 5 books of the Old Law. But so Rachel Pollack speaks about midrash in the introduction to this book and how that works and ties into her writing, because she was Jewish, and I'm not sure how strict she was in following Judaism, but I think she took it quite seriously as a part of herself, a part of her spiritual practice, a part of what made her who she is, the history and the stories that came from that. As she is knowledgeable about many cultures in history, and I don't want to speak for her. I'm not the person to do that. I am not a Rachel Pollack expert. I just know what little bits I've read, and I hope I explained what the midrash is in a very simple way that is factual. This deck is out of print, but it has people in it that are represented in the Old Testament or in her spiritual texts. The box it's an early box. This was in 2016.
So let's take a look at
we're looking at the book real quick. Hermes Publications. To my Miriam's wells of knowledge, inspiration, and wit, Abigail Landsman and Myra Love, and to the 2 Davids, David Vine and David Shar, for it is not written, there is not one David but 2, and each knows not one side but 2, so that there are 4. And finally to my dear friend and wondrous companion, Zoe Batlucia, whose name in Greek, Hebrew, and Latin means life, daughter of light. My great thanks to the rabbis of Facebook who joined me with comments and knowledge. And I won't read the whole thing because I could read the whole book to you because her writing is just beautiful. I will read this one section here. It's just a little introduction. The Raziel Tarot was a deck based on Jewish ideas and stories. Its great theme, especially in major arcana, also known as the trumps, after the original Italian name trionfi, or triumphs, is that of exile and return, in particular the separation of the Shekinah, the female aspect of God, from the male aspect, known as the King or the Holy One, and their reunification. This mirrors the great theme underlying many tarot decks, that of the human soul's exile from knowledge of its true self as ever existent and eternal. Through the course of the 22 cards of the major arcana, ignorance and exile are placed by knowledge, gnosis in Greek, and union, yichud in Hebrew, So the final card in the sequence, called the World, shows an image of genuine reunification and liberation. We will look more closely at this grand theme through the course of the trumps, but first we must consider the basic idea of a Jewish tarot. And then she goes further into the introduction. So it's just a very good book. I've read the first chapter, if you will. I'm sure it's the introduction, but it feels like a chapter in a book. So we went over the box, which is really beautiful. Set that to the side for now, and we'll look at the cards. Make sure we got everything aligned, and maybe where there's not a glare. And
that's better.
Okay, so Joseph, the Coat of Many Colors. And I know, I want to say that's King David. I'm not sure. Let me just look really quick, because I think I did look at him the other day. Maybe that's what I can do. Maybe I can have the tell you who they are as I go through it. I don't think they'll take a great deal of effort on my part, other than just getting on the right page here. And starting at the beginning. Okay. So yes, that was the Fool. This is the High Priest. I mean, the Magician, sorry. So this is just listed as the Magician. King Solomon, the builder of the temple. Subduer of demons, until he himself was tricked by one. The High Priestess, and she is the image of the Shekinah. So she would be the female aspect of God. And then it would go into explanation of all the symbols in here and what they mean. The Empress is the sister of Moses, Miriam. Moses himself takes the role of the emperor, while his brother Aaron appears in his biblical role as high priest. So that explains the high priest a little bit. And then the emperor, of course. And this is Moses. And then Aaron takes the role of the high priest. Now, I don't know if you've ever looked at, there is a hesitancy for me to bring up religion or Bible, but in the Old Testament, there is a section where God has given the priests, the Jewish people, directions on how to design not only the Ark of the Covenant, which we see behind here, but the priestly robes. And it does include a chest plate made of gold with certain jewels and stones embedded in the front. And these were said to represent something, but they had power. They had a power. And it just goes to show you how far back, or how embedded this idea of objects having connection, some sort of spiritual connection, as well as stones being directly connected to the divine in some way. And we do know that even if you don't believe in the healing powers of crystals or anything like that, that everything gives off a vibration. And there was this idea that these certain stones in this certain arrangement would imbue the priests with a higher knowledge or a higher connection to God, or a greater grace to have more something about them, a certain je ne sais quoi. We have Adam and Eve here, the lovers. Now, I do want to say something about Adam and Eve, because growing up, it was beat into me, literally sometimes, that they were the first couple, and I've got some thoughts around that probably differ from a lot of people, but discussion for another day. I don't want to digress. But I do know that there is the verses. This is one most people remember, a couple of them. One is the idea that Eve tempted Adam. The other is, maybe she did, I don't know. Maybe they had a conversation before and he'd put the idea in her head. Who knows? But we don't get that whole story. We get a part of the story, right? We get the perspective of the author. Now, what I was going to say is, when we look at how, I will say, the voice of God, the voice of divine has been hijacked and manipulated, when you think of God setting these two in a garden, or setting humanity in a garden, protecting them completely, and telling them that within this garden I have imbued a part of myself into it to offer you maybe a certain protection. Maybe this is the way I view the tree of life and death and tree of knowledge. They were there as beacons to protect, to allow humanity to gain wisdom over time and years, as they would not die, as they had not been introduced to death yet. So when he says, do not eat of this tree or you will surely die, it's not a punishment. It was a warning. It's like we tell our 2-year-olds, no, don't drink that. Don't put that in your mouth. You'll choke. It's that same sort of thing. If we look at humanity against the divine mind, we're infantile in comparison. And so that's just the way I look at it. But it took years to come to that sort of conclusion and reunification, that God was all along not threatening us with punishment, but protecting us in most cases in that sense. The Chariot, it's red and green. The wheel here in the center in 4 directions. And I'm not sure, but I wonder, does that relate to north, south, east, and west, the 4 directions? Oh yeah, the 4 fixed signs of the Aquarius. So the 4 fixed signs, and then of course the lion head and the lion. All right, then strength. I'm not sure who she is. We're gonna look. And this is not how. Queen of Sheba. The Queen of Sheba, and the Hermit is Moses in the burning bush. The Wheel of Fortune, once again, there's that chest plate, center place in the Wheel of Fortune. I love the way he draws flames and fire and wood and limbs. I just love his art, period. But I especially like the way he draws flames. They don't look cartoony or made up, or they do look real in this world that he creates. This is another image of the Shekinah. The Hangman. And the Hangman. It's the picture of a fallen angel named Shemhai from a Midrash story that she read. I believe once again this is Moses looking over the promised land. I have to go back and double check that. Temperance. Adam and Eve in a scene that follows the lovers. The angel Raziel gives them the Book of Secrets. And then again with the temptation, the devil. Look at that face. He is up to no good. The serpent. It's almost like the serpent is his tail. And this I've seen. This is an image from the Goetia, as well as I think from some of the Marseille decks, is it not? With those kind of feet. The Tower, the burning of the temple. The Star. The Moon. This moon, I just love. It looks like, from a certain perspective, that a hole has been trimmed out of the sky so that the divine and angel can look down. I'm not sure if that was the intent, but but here's the crescent moon and the rest of the moon. Very beautiful. the Sun. Judgment. I remember reading about this card. This card was good. The Holy One has descended to the Shekinah, and she comes into his arms. So the divine has come down to redeem the feminine side. Beautiful. The World. So this is the union of the male and female aspects of God. And yes, if I come back over here, that is what we see here, the divine and the divine feminine joining together. I think that is absolutely beautiful, because there's something else that we always forget about in Christianity a lot of times, is that wisdom, we use the term wisdom, but before it became English, it was Sophia. And even in modern translations where French and Spanish have feminine and masculine nouns and verbs, it still would have a pronoun for her and she when speaking about Sophia, even though it's a reference to God. And we lose that in English because we don't have feminine and masculine pronouns. Well, we have pronouns, but not, it doesn't change the word itself. It's before or after. Like it's embedded in the word. Sophia instead of Sophio. Signor, signora. It's attached to the word, and we don't really have that so much in English. So it loses that. Tree of Life, literally the Tree of Life. If you're familiar with that, it's this typical shape, descending down. This is the divine. And then if you do know, then you know it's the. There are three veils above this: the Ein Sof, and the Ein Sofa. And to descend, the divine or whoever is descending descends through that barrier and begins their journey here. And then they try to come down. The attempt is I forget which way it goes, but there's a lightning strike that comes here, and you go in a certain order through the different emanations of the divine until you get the chakma, which is where we are now. This would be Pentacles. And the Tree of Knowledge. Life and death. And that is the Raziel Tarot. I will trim some of this out, some of my silent spaces, and when I had to switch lights. But it's a beautiful deck. As I learn more about it, maybe I will come back to it. This gilding is absolutely gorgeous. The backs are the same as what was on the inside of the box, which I think is quite clever. And this is a deck I will have and cherish. And I don't know if any of you watched my previous video, the unboxing of this, but this deck meant so much to me because when I was first learning tarot, I found Rachel Pollack and started reading her books, and then found out about her life, and really an incredible life. But the way she wrote, it felt like she was writing to me, like she was talking to me, and it really meant a lot to me. It's very seldom you find an author like that. And I was very sort of happy. I found her, and then I started looking more, and then I found out that she had died maybe about a year or two before I had, just barely before I took up tarot again. And I was really taken aback. It made me very sad, because I was hoping to just get to know her a little better, not like we'd be best friends and go out and have coffee and stuff, and not like a super fan where I would watch every move she made, and I love this salmon color. It's selenite, but it's a rose color or something. It's beautiful. I'd never seen it until I found it. There's one shop, but what I was saying is, it's like the tarot community has meant so much to me. And it would make me sad if someone in one of my tarot groups passed away. So it's not a matter of, she was a traveling and an author and a this and a that. It's just that she had such a way of connecting with the cards and the words that I feel like I missed out on a great opportunity to learn more from her. And being in this community, all you have to do if you want to know something more is email somebody. I emailed Robert M. Place a couple of times, and he responded back. I have emailed deck creators and asked them a question about a card, and they've responded back. People in this community are so generous and so kind with their time that I have not been rebuffed by anyone for asking any questions, and the responses are just genuine. It's like they're not, if they're making $1 million a year and living in a penthouse, they don't act like it. They're not separating themselves. They're perfectly open, and I would encourage you to have those conversations. If you have a question about a deck, if you have a question about some piece of information that's in one of the books that you're like questioning, like, am I understanding what you're saying this meaning is correctly? I'd encourage you just to email them. Anyway, thank you for watching the Raziel Tarot. It is out of print. I do not see this one coming back. I don't think Robert M. Place will publish it again after Rachel passed away. And I am so grateful for this deck, to Simon at the Hermit's Cave, and we did a trade, and I just didn't think I would ever have this deck. And thank you. Have a good night.